Hello, Tom.
Hey.
So, your brother was Norman Moscarello.
Yep.
So, how about you tell me a little bit about Norman?
Normal guy. Had a band in high school. Played everywhere.
What instruments did he play?
Lead guitar.
Lead guitar.
And he taught the rhythm guy how to play.
Nice.
And actually two of them.
All right.
And they played everywhere. And he went in the Navy, they all split up, never together again.
That's fortunate. What do they call themselves?
The Rippers.
The Rippers? All right. Did he continue to play throughout his life afterwards?
Yeah. After he got home from Vietnam, he didn't play much.
He didn't play much.
Just to lost interest.
Yeah,
He was good too.
he was.
He should have kept playing music. He
Mhm.
could have put the band together and been big. They would have made records.
Yeah.
They didn't sing either, all instrumental,
All instrumental.
like the Ventures.
Nice. Nice. So, what was he like outside of being a musician in town? Like, did people know him well? Was he quiet? Was he outgoing?
No. He's a member of Legion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he talked to everybody. He was born to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had a lot of friends.
Even after Vietnam?
Yeah,
Yeah, he remained really social.
yeah, he was.
Yeah. So fill me in a little bit on what Exeter was like during the 60s when you and your brother were growing up before he went
The
out.
cops were really friendly with the teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing. They don't do that anymore.
Did you know George Dufour at all when he's on the force, George?
Dufour, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys never felt threatened at all by the police? You guys would
Never. They were
Yeah.
friendly as hell.
Would you tell them if something was going on? You guys felt
If it was bad, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And that was with everyone, like your parents too?
yeah. I mean, there was no secrets back then.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted to know something, we'd find out.
Yeah.
If it was important enough. You know, something simple like marijuana, just forget it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So people weren't like really troublemakers back then either.
Nope, there wasn't much crime here.
Yeah.
Not as much as there is now.
Were you here in town in September when he saw the
No, I
incident?
was in Kittery. Visited my dad,
Yeah.
and when I got back, I found out about it. You know, he got home, I don't know what time, real early in the morning. I don't know, so where have you been? The cops bring him home. You know? What'd you do? So, pretty exciting. I mean, people would follow us to school,
Yeah.
you know? We would go through the graveyard. They wouldn't go in there.
Uh-huh.
They wouldn't go in the graveyard and follow us. I don't know why, but
Wow. So did it rattle Norman at all?
you mean the incident?
Yeah.
It scared him.
Yeah.
He didn't scared of nothing, but that scared him.
Was he brave, like daring, like
Oh, yeah, I mean, nothing bothered him. Nothing at all.
nothing at all?
But that bothered him.
But that did.
He dove behind a rock wall or a ditch and held his breath. All the crickets stopped
All the crickets.
when that was there. Horses were raising hell in the barn. And he said, when all the crickets stopped, he said, it was weird.
Yeah. And so so he told you the full story, like the day after, like right when you saw him.
Well, when I got back the next week.
The next week. Okay.
Yeah.
So so you got back, was this when all the news was breaking out, people started
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about it? Yeah.
Yeah, people from China filming him from across the street at a house. I mean, It was a worldwide story.
Worldwide. Okay. So,
Not only a film that he wasn't here.
so you got home. People all the way from other countries are filming you guys.
Yeah.
Wow. And okay.
We wouldn't look at him or talk to him.
No, you wouldn't.
No way.
No way.
And then John Fuller wrote that book, made millions. He didn't get a penny. When he went to boot camp, all his reporters and magazines tried to get in to see him. Commander said, get rid of him or you're out. So he went and signed all this stuff away and never got a dime.
Yeah.
He signed under duress. I told him to sue him, he said no.
Huh. It's interesting.
And Bonnie and Betty Hill made a lot of money on that book. On their book, The Interrupted Journey.
Interrupted Journey.
And they made a copy with both stories in it. Incident Exeter and The Interrupted Journey. Another book. And that's sold too.
Did they come and talk to you and Norman, or did they talk to Norman about it all?
He didn't get a chance to talk to him.
You never did. Did you ever get to meet them?
Oh yeah.
Did you meet John Fuller also?
Yep.
Did he come here and talk to you guys about
He
it?
was really young then.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came to the house to talk to my mother. They all did. Not the news people. We wouldn't let them in the door. Kept them off our property. They have to stay across the street.
Were the police helpful? Like, did they keep them away from you guys?
Yep.
Or? Okay.
We asked them to. You don't know who you're talking to, you know?
Yeah.
They could say anything and you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't trust the news people.
So this really, it didn't just change your brother Tom's life. It really changed your family.
The whole family changed, yeah?
George Dufour, occupation, retired. I'm a retired federal fire chief.
Federal fire chief. So how long were you the fire chief?
A fire chief, wow, that was probably 8 years, 7 or 8 years. Before that was regular firefighter.
So where were you a firefighter?
At the, we started at what was called Grenier Field in Manchester. In the old days, I started in 1966 after I got through Exeter PD. Yeah, I spent, I think it was around almost 5 years here, I think it was, right around there. Then, of course, they weren't paying anything and bailed out. At that time, I wasn't getting that much more money either as a firefighter, but I worked 3 24-hour shifts and had 4 days off to work part-time to make up some extra money. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all in all, I could make more money weekly.
Okay. So you worked on, you said you were on the police department for 5 years?
Pretty close, yeah, 4.5, somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay. And so this was from 1 to 1?
Pardon?
And this is from 1 to 1 when the year that you started and stopped working?
I went in the Army in 53 and got out in 55. I think it was around 56 I started at PD, 56, 57. And then after about 3 years there, I left and went to the post office. And I thought that would be a much better job, but it wasn't very interesting, to tell you the truth. So I came back to Exeter until, as I say, in 66, late 66.
So walk me through what your everyday would have been as a police officer.
Well, it was almost every night.
Every day.
So, I didn't work many day shifts.
Mhm.
I did work some day shifts when the regular guys had a week off or whatever, and they would have me work downtown there. There used to be 2 walking policemen daily downtown, except Sundays.
Mhm.
Other than that, my shift was 5 in the evening till 2 in the morning. And after 6 o'clock, there were just the 2 of us, the desk man and myself in a cruiser. Hard to believe today,
Mhm.
only one man and my size for the town of Exeter. Think about it. There were some stories there.
Those are some stories.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what it comprised of. So when I worked 5 to 2, I worked a lot of times with Gene, or I can't remember if Dave Hunt came on at the same time. I think he worked a little bit later.
Mhm.
Gene came on before, as I recall. Anyway. But then at some point, they both worked midnight to 8 in the morning. And that's where there would be an overlap. And a lot of times I'd ride around with Gene or whatever and finish up my shift, you know.
Okay.
But I knew Gene and Dave, you know, from way back. Gene was only, was he 1 year behind me in school, high school? At the most 2 years, but I think it might have been 1 year. And Dave, a couple of years after, 2 or 3 years, a little younger. But Dave lived quite near me on Front Street.
Mhm.
And Gene lived not that far, at the end of Washington Street, yeah. Yeah. So I knew them both from way back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how well did you know the both of them?
Well, Gene better, for some reason, I know Gene better than Dave, although Dave lived closer. I think it's because the age difference. It might have been, I don't know, 3 years younger or whatever. And when you're a kid, say 13, 14, 3 years is a big difference. When you get to be 25, 3 years is nothing, right?
Yeah.
Difference. But I wouldn't normally play with a kid 3 or 4 years younger. No, I just wouldn't. And he just lived up around the corner, Dave did. But Gene was a little further, but I knew him, and I think it's because he was so close to me in school. Good track man. He was very fast running. He was one of those natural runners. I've not been. My legs are too heavy, too short. But Gene was like a deer. I mean, and he had that nice pace to him, you know. If he and I were running together, it would be clump and speed, clump and speed. And you know who Clump was. So anyway, that I did know Gene pretty well.
Yeah. All right. So how would you describe them?
Those two?
Yeah.
Well, I think Gene was more outgoing for some reason. Talked a lot.
Mhm.
Dave was more quiet. He'd stand back. Great big guy, you know. I don't know if you know how big Dave was. He was a big man.
How big?
Wow. Probably Dave was pretty 5'10", 5'11", and big. Big. He probably went 240. I'm guessing. He's a big guy, I'll
Good.
tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Big man.
Yeah. Were these both, like, were they friendly? Did people in the neighborhood, in the community, know them well, like them?
I've never heard anything bad about either one.
Okay.
Really. I never heard. See, one of the problems, like where I can go back to where Dave lived, one of the problems, there were no young boys his age in that area.
Uh-huh.
Made it a little hard for Dave. Same with Gene, up on Kingston Road, Brentwood Road, where he lived. There were probably a few more kids his age around McKinley Street, Washington Street, the other end, towards front. Yeah, there was probably more kids that way. But also Dave was an only child, I think, pretty sure. Gene had, I think, a couple sisters.
Okay. Did Dave keep to himself?
Pardon?
Did Dave keep to himself?
Well, I don't remember him around much, but here again, I didn't. My way to go to friends was not going out towards Front Street and go by Dave's house. My way was to go streets and back. So I never went by Dave's house, to tell you the truth.
Okay. How were they? How was interacting with them as an officer?
With other officers, you mean? Or?
With you or with other officers?
I think quite friendly.
Okay.
And here again, their attitude was the same. David kind of hang back and smile and laugh, add a few words. Gene would be kind of muttering a little bit, yapping. So, and by the way, don't forget, when they get there at midnight, the guys that were just getting out of bed and going there, they're not, like Red Skelton here, very jolly. They're fairly serious.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I saw Gene mad or Dave mad, really. I mean, they were, on the UFO deal, were they upset? Yes, they were very upset. But when I'm talking police work, I really never saw them that you would call quite angry. I didn't see them.
Okay. And then there wasn't any temper issues.
They what?
There was never any temper issues or bad behavior.
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
2:30 a.m. I missed out on that. I say the word miss casually because I'm glad I missed out, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
I was off. My days off were, it appears, Wednesday and Thursday nights. And it was early Friday morning when this occurred. I happened to go downtown Friday evening to do some shopping for something. Those are the days when there were actual stores downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they really don't have stores downtown. There are no grocery stores. There's no shoe stores or men's clothing stores.
Mm-hmm.
No hardware stores. So there were stores downtown as opposed to boutiques and real estate, etc. So people used to shop, and there were a lot of people who shop Friday evenings. And there were two policemen who used to be on the walkways across Water Street. Be one over by the end of the town hall, and there'd be a policeman there to stop traffic, let the shoppers go back and forth the vehicles. And there was another officer down at the corner of Center Street and Water Street for the same walkway area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going down the sidewalk on Water Street, and I saw the officer there. It was Bob Dickinson, and he was, watching out for the foot traffic and the cars. So I stopped to talk with Bob for a minute, and I probably said something like, "How you doing? Everything quiet?" And, "Oh, you should have been here last night. Oh, wow. Oh, you didn't hear what happened?" No, I really didn't hear what happened. He said, "Oh, Gene and Dave got it. Were witnesses to a UFO over in Kensington. Oh, whoa, wow." Well, that's the first I heard about it. So I must have talked to Dave and Gene at midnight. I don't think they had the weekend off. And that's when they told me what they saw. So I took it as a true sighting. I mean, why would they invent something like that? That's what I was thinking. The kid, Muscarello, I think I knew him somewhat, but I didn't, we didn't have beers together, if you know what I'm saying. I didn't know him that well. So it's just a kid. I know him from the West End. And I said, I really can't fault Dave and Gene at this point for the story they told me. I mean, so okay, that was it. So at some point, I got into it more with Gene, and he was telling me, he says, you know, I almost pulled my gun. And he said, I stood there when that thing was coming over, George, and he said, and all of a sudden I said, what the hell am I doing? That's exactly his quote. He says, I put the 38 back in the holster. He says, this was too big for me. And he says, yeah, come up. I knew the area where it was. I knew the people that lived in the house that Moscarello knocked on the door trying to get a ride. People named Russell. And there was fields between Mr. Russell's and Mr. Dining's place. A big field there, and then halfway down there was a strip of woods. Like years ago, farmers would put stone walls and trees to differentiate their property from, say, your property. And there was a field in the back. And then Gene said that's what, he said it came up from the field down and back, not the field closest to the road. It was way down and back, and then he said it came up over the trees. He said, I thought I was going to hit the trees. He said, that's what I thought. Dave, when I talked at one point, it might have been the first night, but I don't think so. I think it was as things started to settle down. It might have been the following night, Saturday night, Sunday night, whatever, that we talked more about it. And they had time to think about what happened down there. And it was starting to blow up, publicity-wise, So that's how it started with me. My first knowledge of what happened. And it wasn't fun after that, for those two guys especially. The small police station was inundated with people from everywhere. Mm-hmm. Professionals as well as people like myself, yourself, interested parties, would walk in and say, what happened? It was constant. Mm-hmm. And then the mail started coming in from all over the world. It was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And there was so much mail that the chief got out a empty shoebox and it piled up the mail in there. And when I'd come in to work at 5 o'clock, they'd come in at midnight. Well, the mail was in the box waiting for me. The box would be almost full nightly from mail from everywhere. Then, of course, people, as I say, newspaper people, not polite. A lot of them had already made up their minds that this was a joke, hoax, imagination, or whatever. Not very polite. I think Gene and Dave gave them the bum's rush out. I know Gene was home one time having breakfast, he said, after working midnight to 8. He was sitting at his table, and he said all of a sudden the door opens up and this guy comes walking in real fast, telling them, you better repent. It's because of your sins that you've seen this. You're part of the devil. And Gene says, what? And Gene said, out, get out. So this is what they were putting up with. Plus people laughing, and they knew laughing behind their backs. And, it really was not good.
It's like they were black sheep.
It was, it might have been at least gray sheep, I'll put it that way. You know what I'm saying? It was, people were saying, because the people didn't know, number one. They didn't know if they were really telling the truth. But they should. I mean, these guys were town bred. I mean, both Gene Air Force. Dave was in the service, but I don't know what. I don't know what he did. But there were a lot of people that just would laugh at him and say, "Oh, yeah, them guys."
Talking to them was that they were really sure about what they saw.
Oh, there was no question about that. Yeah, they're talking to Gene. I remember one of those early evenings, not the first night. There was.
I was just syncing up. No worries, keep going.
We can go back to this if you
No,
want.
no. Garrett can ask you, but I'm just curious personally. I'm like, I just want to hear this.
Yeah, no, but the first night, that Friday night we worked, I don't think, there wasn't that much talk. He was still, I remember Gene was still quite excited about it, and Dave was, but it was, I think, like a few days later, a few nights later, when we got more, probably what you would call, into the meat of it, we talked more, and Gene says, I never saw anything like this. Never. He's just, I mean, we were so close to P's here, as you know. Planes were not a big deal. I did not see many helicopters here, but they did have, I'm sure, a few over there. And the Coast Guard had a chopper also. So there was no
Big flashy,
question.
bright stuff. So there wasn't like big flashy, bright stuff.
There was no question that what they saw was something. And don't forget, I'll mention it. Is this on now?
Yeah, it's all on.
Oh, it is? Well,
Yeah.
I'll mention it now then. No time did Gene or Dave, in my presence, ever say that this particular UFO ever came from outer space. They didn't know what it was. And UFO means unidentified.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
No, it's a possibility they could have come from outer space. It could have been they came from Seabrook. Who knows? I don't know where they came from. And Gene and Dave didn't. They never said this. They just said, we don't know what it is.
Yeah.